Good morning, students. In the last class, we discussed with the reforms with regard to the banking sectors and also what are the new methods that is to be adopted by each and every banks. What is a performing asset and what is a non-performing asset? So that we see in the previous class. So today we are going to see the balance portion with regard to the banking sector or banking in an insurance chapter or the subject. So performing assets and the non-performing assets that we see in the previous class. Next is the features of the capital adequacy norms. So what are the capital adequacy things that is the requirement for this? What all things are to be there need to in consideration. So capital adequacy requirement existed long ago, but the most important are those specified by the Basel Committee. On the basis of the recommendation of the Basel Committee, the capital of the banks has been classified into two categories, the tier 1 and tier 2. In the tier 1, what all things are there? The paid up capital is there, the free reserves that includes share premium is there, general reserve is there, and the tier 2 includes undisclosed reserves and cumulative perpetual preference shares, revaluation reserves at a discount of 25%, and surplus provision or loss reserves subject to a maximum of 1.25 weighted risk assets is there. So tier 1 is there and tier 2 is there. So tier 1 consists of the paid up capital, the free reserves, and the general reserve, while the tier 2 consists of the undisclosed reserve, the revaluation reserve, and the surplus profit or surplus provision or loss reserves that subject to a maximum of 1.25 percentage of the weighted risk assets. Next is non-banking asset. What is that non-banking assets? So the non-banking assets. So banking assets are there and non-banking assets are there. So what is a non-banking asset? As per section 9 of the Banking Regulation Act 94, a bank cannot acquire certain assets but can lend against such assets. So cannot take the ownership of the asset, but they can lend against such asset. This means that sometimes in case of the failure on the part of the loanee to repay the loans, the bank may have to take the possession of such assets. So the assets that are acquired by a bank in full satisfaction of the claim in respect of the non-payment of a loan by a customer is the non-banking asset. ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു കസ്റ്റമർ ഒരു ലോൺ എടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ആ ലോണിന്റെ തിരിച്ചടവ് നടത്തിയിട്ടില്ല എങ്കിൽ ആ ഈക്വലന്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള എന്താണ് അവിടെ ആസ്തിയുള്ളത്, that asset need to be acquired by the bank. In the case of fulfillment of the non-payment of that particular thing, then the bank is acquiring that asset. That is called which one? Non-banking asset. Now you are clear. So such assets are shown in the balance sheet as non-banking assets, and it must be disposed of within a period of 7 years. 7 വർഷത്തിനുള്ളിൽ വിറ്റ് കളയുകയും വേണം. ആൻഡ് ഓൾസോ എന്താണ് നോൺ ബാങ്കിങ് അസറ്റ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ലോൺ എടുത്തിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരാൾ തിരികെ കൊടുക്കുന്നില്ല എങ്കിൽ, so default means failure to do so, the bank may acquire that asset, take the possession or the ownership of that asset. That is the non-banking asset. Clear? Then, Basel norms. Basel is a city in Switzerland where the headquarters of the Bureau of International Settlement is located. BIS established to facilitate the cooperation among central banks with a common goal of financial stability and common standards of banking regulation. Currently, there are 27 member nations in the committee, and the Basel norms refers to the board supervisory standards formulated by the group of central banks and called the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision also. Basel Accord. That is also, it is series of recommendations on the banking laws and regulations that are to be issued by the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. And the purpose of this accord is to ensure that financial institutions have enough capital to meet the obligation and absorb the unexpected losses. അതായത് ഒരു യാദൃശ്യമായിട്ടുണ്ടാകുന്ന നഷ്ടങ്ങൾ അത് അബ്സോർബ് ചെയ്യുകയും, and also in order to meet the obligations, the requirement regarding that, then in such a case, this Basel Accord is to be entrusted with or need to be taken care. That is under the Basel Committee. So that is the bank The Basel records are a series of recommendations on banking laws and regulations that is to be issued by the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. Next is what? The Basel 1 and Basel 2. So what is a Basel 1? It is a Basel Capital Accord refers to a capital measurement system introduced by the BCBS in 1988. It focused almost entirely on credit risk. It defined the capital and structure of the risk weight for banks, and the minimum capital requirement was fixed at 8% of the risk-weighted assets, and the RWA means asset with a different risk profiles also. While Basel 2 is in 2004, Basel II guidelines were published by BCBS, which were considered to be refined and reformed version of the Basel I record. Basel II is the international business standard. It is a standard set. Both are the standard set regarding the credit risk. So, it is an international business standard that requires financial institutions to maintain enough reserves, enough cash reserves in order to cover the risk incurred by the operation. So, the guidelines were based on three parameters. That is, banks should maintain a minimum capital adequacy requirement of 8% of the risk assets. Banks were needed to develop and use better risk management techniques in monitoring and managing the risk also, and banks need to mandatorily disclose their risk exposure to the central bank. So these three parameters need to comply with this Basel II standards. And Basel III is, in 2010, Basel III guidelines were released. These guidelines were introduced in response to the financial crisis of 2008. The problem includes, during the period, banks in the developed economies were undercapitalized, over-leveraged, and had a greater reliance on short-term funding that leads to lack of liquidity in banks. And the quantity and quality of the capital under the Basel II were deemed insufficient, that is not sufficient to contain any further risk. So these are the Basel 1, Basel 2, and Basel 3 norms or the rules with regard to these standards, how to be set up. Then the small finance banks. What is a small finance bank? It is a niche marketing pole, niche or small banks in India. Small finance banks are the licensed bank with small finance that provides basic banking service of accepting of the deposits and lending of the money. Main banking function like accepting the deposits and lending the money, the small banks also need to undergo. So that is the small finance banks are the licensed banks with the small finance that provides basic banking services of accepting deposits and lending the money. The aim behind setting small finance banks is to provide the financial services to deprived sections of the economy like small business units, small and marginal farmers, and micro and small industries that are not being served by other banks. മറ്റ് വലിയ ബാങ്കുകൾ ഇവർക്ക് അതിനനുസരിച്ചുള്ള എന്താ ഫണ്ട് ഇല്ലാത്തതുകൊണ്ട്, ഡെപ്പോസിറ്റിനുള്ള ഫണ്ട് ഇല്ലാത്തതുകൊണ്ട്, this small finance banks is to accept the deposits also and lending the money also to who people, small scale business units, small and marginal farmers, krishikaran, and also the micro and the small industries. So that is the small finance banks. Features are established as public limited companies in the private sector, promoted either by individuals, corporates, or trusts or societies. Minimum paid up capital should be 5 crores and the promoter's contribution should be at least 2 crores. 2 കോടി പ്രൊമോട്ടറിന്റെ കോൺട്രിബ്യൂഷൻ, 5 കോടി മാത്രമേ അതിന്റെ മിനിമം പെയ്ഡ് ക്യാപിറ്റൽ ഉള്ളൂ. അത് ആർക്ക് വേണേലും തുടങ്ങാൻ പറ്റുന്ന രീതിയിലാണ്. സോ ലെൻഡിങ് ദ fund to those who required it and accepting deposits from the small scale business units or micro and small industries or small ventures and the marginal farmers like that. And also the local area banks can operate and open their branches in a maximum of 3 districts. They are governed by the provisions of the RBI Act 1934, Banking Regulation Act 1949, and other relevant statuses also. Statutes also, not status, statutes also. About the governed by RBI, governed by the provisions of the RBI Act, Banking Regulation Act, and also other relevant statute that is to be required for opening or operating a bank. And they have to be registered as a public limited companies under the Companies Act 2013 also. And the promoters should have at least 10 years experience in the banking and finance. അങ്ങനെ തുടങ്ങുന്ന ആ ഒരു സംരംഭം അതിൽ ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കുന്ന പ്രൊമോട്ടേഴ്സ്, അതിനെ പ്രൊമോട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന ആൾക്കാർക്ക് അറ്റ്ലീസ്റ്റ് 10 years of experience should be required. സോ അങ്ങനെ തുടങ്ങുന്ന സ്മോൾ ഫിനാൻസ് ആണ്, സ്മോൾ ഫിനാൻസ് പ്രൊവൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ബാങ്ക്സ് ആണ്, ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ദ സ്മോൾ ഫിനാൻസ് ബാങ്ക്സ്. Another one is the payment bank. As a payment bank is basically a recent concept in the banking sector and is regulated by the RBI. A payment bank is similar to a normal bank with the difference that such a bank is restricted to perform only few of the banking services when compared to a traditional bank. ഒരു സാധാരണ ബാങ്കിന്റെ എല്ലാ ഫംഗ്ഷൻസും പെർഫോം ചെയ്യാതെ ചില ഫംഗ്ഷൻസ് മാത്രം പെർഫോം ചെയ്യുന്ന, ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് മെയിൻലി ദ പേയ്മെന്റ്. Only the payment need to take care. So അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ബാങ്ക് ആണ്, that is to be payment bank. A payment bank has been categorized as a scheduled bank. It is mandatory for such banking companies to include the word payment bank also to its name to differentiate it from other banks. അങ്ങനെ പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കണം. Excuse me. So that is the case. Payment bank എന്ന് സ്പെസിഫൈ ചെയ്ത് ബാങ്കിന്റെ പേരിന്റെ കൂടെ പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കും, because need to differentiate it from the traditional or the normal banks. That is the case. Then services offered by the payment banks are: payment bank can accept the deposits up to a maximum of rupees 1 lakh only per customer. Per customer 1 ലക്ഷം രൂപ മാത്രമേ ഡെപ്പോസിറ്റ് വാങ്ങിക്കാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. Only the demand deposit and savings bank deposit can be accepted from the individuals, small firms and other entities. Then payment bank can pay interest on deposits just like normal banks. Payment bank can issue debit card or ATM cards to its customers. Payment banks are allowed to transfer the payments through any channel. Mobile banking can be accessed through the payment banks. Payment banks can provide internet banking services like RTGS and NEFT like that. And a payment bank can provide basic financial services like access of the mutual fund, insurance products, etc. that are subject to the conditions of the RBI. And a payment bank application can be used to make the payment of the bills also. So these are the peculiarities with regard to a payment bank. So the name should be specifiedly undergone, or specifically it should be shown after the name of the bank. Payment bank ennu kaanichirikkanam. And only for that particular purpose it is utilized. Then the payment banks in India are Aditya Birla Nuvo Limited, Idea Cellular, Reliance Industry, Airtel M Commerce Services Limited, Department of Post, Vodafone M-Pesa Limited, Fino Paytech, National Securities Depository, and Sun Pharmaceuticals. See, these are the payment banks. Maybe payment facilities are there. Next is financial inclusion. What is the financial inclusion? Financial inclusion or inclusive financing is the delivery of the financial services at affordable cost to disadvantaged sections and low income segments of the society. സമൂഹത്തിലെ ഏറ്റവും താഴേക്കിടയിലുള്ള ആൾക്കാർ, ലോ ഇൻകം സെഗ്മെന്റിലും അതുപോലെ ഡിസഡ്വാൻറ്റേജസ്ഡ് സെക്ഷൻസ് അങ്ങനെയുള്ളവർക്കും ചെറിയ തോതിലുള്ള ഫിനാൻഷ്യൽ സർവീസസിന്റെ ഡെലിവറി ചാർജസ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇൻക്ലൂസീവ് ഫിനാൻസിംഗ് ഈസ് ദി ഡെലിവറി ഓഫ് ദ ഫിനാൻഷ്യൽ സർവീസസ്. എന്ത് ഫിനാൻഷ്യൽ തിങ്സ് ആണ്, അതായത് സർവീസസ് ആണ് റെൻഡർ ചെയ്യുന്നതെങ്കിൽ there should be some financial cost to be incurred. That at an affordable rate, it should be provided to the disadvantaged segments or the sections and also low income group of the society. In recent years, the government and RBI have been pushing the concept and idea of financial inclusion. So RBI defines the financial inclusion as the process of ensuring access to appropriate financial products and services that are needed by all the sections of the society in general and the weaker sections and low-income groups in particular at an affordable cost in a fair and transparent manner by the mainstream institutional players. So in between the mainstream players, they act as a mediator and rendering the services to those who are required. But who all are these? Weaker sections of the society, low income groups in the society, and those who are in the general sections of all the sections of the society in the general and weaker section, general and the weaker sections and the low income groups, so that at an affordable cost rendering the services, isn't it, through the mainstream international players. So that is the RBI defines a financial inclusion or inclusive financing. So once again, the process of earning access to appropriate financial products and services that are needed by all the sections of the society in general and the weaker sections and low income groups in particular at an affordable cost in a fair and transparent manner by the mainstream institutional players. That is the case with regard to financial inclusion or inclusive financing. ഒറ്റ ഇതേ ഉള്ളൂ. അതിന് ഉദ്ദേശം എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഒരു ഇടനിലക്കാരായിട്ട് പ്രവർത്തിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് financial services in the delivery at an affordable cost that is to be given to disadvantaged sections. എല്ലാവരിൽ നിന്നും അവഗണിക്കപ്പെട്ട് കിടക്കുന്ന ഒരു സമൂഹം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ചെറിയ വരുമാനമുള്ള സമൂഹത്തിലെ ചെറിയ വരുമാനമുള്ള ആൾക്കാർ അവർക്ക് ഒരു മീഡിയേറ്റർ ആയിട്ട് നിന്നുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു സർവീസസ് റെൻഡർ ചെയ്യുന്നു. അതാണ് ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ദ ഫിനാൻഷ്യൽ ഇൻക്ലൂഷൻ ഓർ ഇൻക്ലൂസീവ് ഫിനാൻസിംഗ്. ബെനിഫിറ്റ്സ് വിത്ത് റിഗാർഡ് ടു ദിസ്. It helps the rural population to get access to the banking facility. Rural population, that is to be giving the banking facility or providing banking services at the rural area. It helps to reduce the cash economy as more money is brought into the banking sector or banking net. So, reduce the cash economy. Then it inculcates the habit of savings, which promotes capital formation in the country. Saving, yeah? The habit of saving to be maintained. That direct cash transfers to the beneficiary bank account instead of physical cash payments against the subsidies become possible. This ensures that the funds actually reach the intended recipients also. Availability of the adequate and transparent credit from formal banking channels will promote the entrepreneurial spirit of the people to increase the output and prosperity in the country. So these are the benefits with regard to inclusive financing or financial inclusion. And one more thing, PMJDY, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. This is the new scheme. So it is a nationwide scheme launched by the Indian government in August 2014, whereby anyone who is an Indian citizen above the age of 10 years and does not have a bank account can open a bank account with a zero balance. That is the PMJDY, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. That is 10 years അപ്പുറമായിരിക്കണം the age, and also ഒരു bank account ഇല്ല എങ്കിൽ open a bank account with a zero balance. That is the case PMJDY, Jan Dhan Yojana. In this scheme, the financial inclusion of every individual who does not have a bank account is to be achieved. Under this, the entire individuals, irrespective of their area, may be rural or urban area, can get a bank account without depositing any amount if they fulfill their eligibility criteria. The eligibility criteria is only this 10 years, over 10 years of age. Isn't it? 10 വയസ്സിന് മേളിലുള്ള ആർക്ക് വേണേലും പ്രധാനമന്ത്രി ജൻ ധൻ യോജന ഓപ്പൺ ചെയ്യാം. And whether it belongs to a rural area or an urban area. So this scheme is very beneficial for the rural population where banking services and other financial institutions are rarely available. Then documents required to open such an account: the passport, the driving license, the PAN card, the voter's identity card issued by the Election Commission of India, letter issued by the Unique Identification Authority, that is നമ്മുടെ ആധാർ, okay, containing the details of the name, address, and Aadhaar number, or any other document as notified by the central government in consultation with the regulator. So only need to have the fulfill the eligibility criteria. That is the thing. Avarku or account undagirudhu, eligibility criteria more than 10 years of age. Then we need to open a bank account free of cost. That is the case. So that is the PMJDY Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Benefits of the PMJDY are accidental insurance cover. Provides accidental insurance cover to the tune of 1 lakh rupees. 1 ലക്ഷം രൂപയ്ക്ക് വരെ accidental insurance coverage ഉണ്ട്. This would be extremely helpful to the weaker sections in the unfortunate event of the accidental death of the bird earning member. അതായത് അവിടെ ആരാണോ നമ്മുടെ ഫാമിലിയിൽ ആരാണോ ഏൺ ചെയ്യുന്ന മെമ്പർ ഉള്ളത് അവരുടെ മരണം ഉണ്ടാവുകയാണെങ്കിൽ accidental insurance coverage should be given to the weaker sections. That is one advantage. Another one is we can open this account with a zero balance. So zero balance account. No money is to be deposited at the time of opening an account with the bank. No minimum balance is required. Insurance coverage also there. Ensures transparency, easy transfer of money, overdraft facility to be provided, and access to other financial products also. So insurance products, pension schemes, ഇതിനൊക്കെ link ഉണ്ട് ഇതുമായിട്ട്. So access to other financial products. So with that, we come to the end of the second module, that is the reforms and the technological advancement in the banking sector. So please have a look at today's classes and please overlook all the part with regard to this chapter, and please confirm after uploading the video. Thank you for the day.